Just yesterday, as of the creation of this script, Charlie Kirk was shot dead during a debate on gun control and gun violence by a sniper. Ignoring the irony of this, we have been told by many people on the right that this is what will radicalize them. That the giddy delight of so many people at the death of this man proves that the left is evil and nasty, and all those extremely inflammatory words. So, without judgment on anyone, we want to level the playing field and add a touch of perspective to the mix. Charlie Kirk has gone on record saying that empathy is a new age concept made by the woke left to indoctrinate our children into having feelings and all that. Charlie Kirk publicly laughed about the Pelosi hammerer and called for him to be bailed and exonerated the night of the incident. Charlie Kirk laughed and cheered when 2 Michigan lawmakers were murdered in their own homes. Charlie Kirk wanted the extermination of trans people, and it was Charlie Kirk who said that, while unfortunate, it was worth it to have a few innocent people killed in gun deaths every year in order to keep the Second Amendment sacred. According to his own words, his death was worth it. But we do not see people on his side embracing and acknowledging that. We do not see them remembering the legacy he left them. We see people waving their hands in the air, screaming about how horrible the left is being because they are cheering on the death of a man who has explicitly encouraged political violence against the left before, whose own fandom has consistently called for violence and death against those who disagree with him. We see pearl clutching and wailing to the skies that the left lacks basic human decency and empathy, that the left is cheering on the death of a great man. Let's get one thing straight. Charlie Kirk was not a great man. He had no respect for his fellow human being, and he wanted the destruction of any demographic that disagreed with him. He gleefully cheered on the deaths of those he saw as his ideological enemies, just as those who regard him as an ideological enemy cheer on his death now. His transgressions against those he deemed less than are myriad and publicly available for all to see, just as are the transgressions of all those cheering on his demise. That, you see, is the problem. All of the evidence of Charlie Kirk's disgusting behavior is just as open and publicly available as all of the evidence for everyone else's disgusting behavior. If one steps back even a little bit and takes a look around, they'll find very quickly that this sort of behavior is present not only on both sides, but throughout the American culture as a whole. Presently, it is fashionable to hate the other side and draw immense satisfaction on their pain and suffering, even their death. Our president regularly refers to transgender individuals as mentally ill lunatics in hopes that it will cause his fandom to be that much more hostile toward this vulnerable minority. Our highest Democratic competitors have called Trump voters a basket of deplorables and alienated them away from basic humanist values by entirely dehumanizing them like this. The moment someone gets shot, the Republicans scream, "The Democrats did this. They're the enemy of the people." The moment somebody gets beaten to death, "The Republicans did this. They hate the poor and minorities." There is all the information for clarity around us, surrounding us from all directions, and we have mountains of evidence against all the people on all the sides. And in response, we all gleefully misunderstand each other and work as hard as we can to twist the words of our perceived ideological opponents so that we can continue this game of who can be more triggered and radicalized by everything going on right now. We've asked this before, but aren't we tired of this by now? Don't you want to stop fighting? And stop being angry all the time? Stop finding reasons to hate each other? Stop finding reasons to give yourself a fucking heart attack or a stroke over the stress and hate and anger and rage of it all? Aren't you tired of plastering labels on each other that you don't even know the meanings of? Do you even know what woke means? Do you even know who the Nazis were? Do you care that if indeed trans people are mentally ill lunatics, that they get the help and compassion they need to recover and become responsible, self-sufficient members of society? Isn't it way more important to solve mutual problems with tried and true solutions rather than fight each other over fringe subjects entirely perpetuated by the culture war that the upper class encourages so that we don't see what's really going on? When the president says that trans people are mentally ill lunatics, why does that make you hate them? Why doesn't that make you want to help them? When someone gets shot, why does that make you cheer? Why doesn't it make you wonder to yourself, how has our nation come to this? Have we lost all common decency? We have no sympathy for Charlie Kirk. He has explicitly stated that he believed empathy is harmful and dangerous, so we shall extend none to him. Odd as it may be that such a thing would in fact be empathetic to his wishes. He was very clear that he didn't want us, or our entire demographic, to exist. And he was even more clear that he thought that the death of our entire demographic, that its wholesale destruction, would be satisfying and good in his mindset. He smiled and laughed about the deaths of people in that demographic just as people are smiling, laughing about his death right now. So we were very much foundational enemies. He wasn't a perceived ideological foe to us. He was an actual villain that had wanted the destruction of everything we are for a long time and was working actively with those who had the power to deliver on those desires. But that has never been our concern. We have not allowed that to let us descend into extremism and hate. We believe that it is far more important to stand strong and to stand together than to break others apart, than to cheer on the deaths and destruction of others, because that would be giving into the toxicity of extremism. And unlike Charlie Kirk, we know how it feels to be on the butt end of powerful government extremism, and wouldn't wish it on anyone. Not even him and his. And we think it would be reasonable for people on both sides right now to do as Charlie did every time there was a shooting in the USA somewhere that didn't matter to him. To do what everyone did yesterday when 4 high school children were killed in a mass shooting. Move on. He would casually cast aside the shooting of school children and move on to his next political agenda without even mentioning it unless it served his ends. He found such things to be acceptable, and this is evidence that he is a victim of his own policy. This is not happy nor sad. This is evidence. This is data of a policy in action. A man who was presently arguing that gun violence is acceptable in a nation such as this died by gun violence during that argument. You, as a nation, should not be paying attention to the hatred and contempt of those around you. You have data in front of you, and you need to consider it. This man approved of this sort of thing. He found it worth it, in his own words. This was an acceptable loss, even if he never thought that it would be his loss. It did not work out for him. His policy failed to protect him and his Second Amendment, and he died because somebody else shot him, which he had repeatedly stated was worth it. Will you, based on this data point, change your opinion on the current state of the Second Amendment and how we control gun violence in this country? If you will, regardless of the stance you end up reaching, you have the honesty and responsibility to seriously consider the nuance of this scenario and put hate and malice aside to work more closely with others and think more deeply on what we can do to solve this recurring issue. If you won't, then you are an extremist. You, like Charlie Kirk, believe that this is okay. And all of the screaming and crying you have now about how disgusting and evil the Democrats are for cheering on Charlie's death, that's just hypocrisy. You don't care about death. You just care about embracing extremism by taking whatever ammo you can and using it against the perceived ideological enemy. And extremism is what led to this. So let's not.